with this mask layer, we're getting the hair below the hat, but not the hair above the hat. Okay, so in this very quick tutorial, I'm going to talk about how I've been dealing with hair passing through hats with Metahumans in Unreal Engine. I've been doing this for making little films. It doesn't work real time. There's other ways of doing it. You could probably edit the groom asset and just cut it off and switch between the two or something like that. I'm not sure whether that would be easier. It sounds quite difficult. But what I've been doing instead is I've been rendering it with this view, with the hair passing through the hat. I've been rendering it with the hair turned off, and I've been rendering a mask that indicates to my composition software, which is Premiere Pro, it's what I'm using, which bits I should include from one and the other. So how do you do a custom stencil? This pass is pretty straightforward. To turn off the hair, you do another render pass. So I'm using the Cinematics Movie Render Queue. I would add my different sequence, set it up to output PNGs to the correct folder. I'd call this folder just base. Render this through the action in this scene. And then turning off the hair is just a matter of going into the blueprints, selecting the hair and going to visibility and setting that to 0. I've actually got an event graph that changes this through a different setting, so I've got a little parameter to my character that allows me to turn it on and off in a slightly different way. Where is that hair? There you go. But for you just go into hair for both characters and just set the visibility to off, and then render that. Render the pass again without any hair, so it's just the hats on the top without the stuff getting in the way. And then the most interesting bit, the masking, what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that project settings, custom depth stencil, let's see if we can find that. I think it's a single word. Enabled with stencil. We don't really want to change what's here in the hat. We want to mask it out, but we only want to mask out the top part of the hat. Otherwise, we will accidentally cut the hair at any point where we're looking underneath the hat, if that makes sense. So here that hat would be masked out, but it would also be masked out sort of around that edge. So if we tried to comp that in, then it would cut the hair. So what we want to do is apply a mask, but also only apply the mask to the top part of the hat. And the way that I've been doing that, I've been following this Unreal tips and tricks tutorial about how to use the custom depth buffer to create masks. And for each hat, I have created just a version of the same hat where the material is just black and white, where black is the part of the hat that I want to include in the mask and the white is the part that I want to remove or not mask. So I've just done that by creating a material. I've painted in the color basically for this object so that one part or whatever part I don't want to include is the white and the rest of it is black. And now I'm going to go to my post-processing. I'm going to have filtered into material. So under post-processing materials, say add, say asset reference. And I'm going to create a new asset reference. Just going to find so I've already got some that use the custom depth information. I also need to select my object, my hat. And so for our police hat, we select it and we just search for depth and turn on the custom depth, render custom depth. We can leave everything else there the same. Save that, So what we're going to do, we go to a new material, let's call it PPM, post-processing material, custom stencil color mask. Okay, and just like that tutorial I was talking about that I'll link to, we set it to post-processing. We are going to get a scene texture. Okay, so what I have here is a shader setup that's similar to the tutorial that I linked to using custom depth. And what we're going to do is we're going to just apply the diffuse color to change this. This is going to be 1 if it's white. So white is our exclude color. Let's see if we can add that one onto that one and then clamp it between the correct values, and let's see what we get there. Okay, so there we go. We've got our masking, which is excluding everything that's white. There's a little bit of hair showing here, but that's because we haven't turned it off. What we would do now for this view, we would render this out again with the hair turned off, of course, so we just get the clear mask. And now here in Premiere Pro, which is what I'm using to comp everything in, we have this original pass with the hair passing through, visible through the hat. We have a mask that we've just generated using that approach. We have a render of just a hat, although you can do this the whole render just with the hair turned off. That will actually produce better results for this. I just wanted to save disk space because this image is smaller than having to render the whole thing. For me, because I have this layer kind of isolated out already, which absolutely wasn't necessary, I have an Ultra key to remove all of the extra black. You won't need that if you're just rendering out the whole scene with the hair turned off entirely. Our masking layer, we have an Ultra key set up for the pink for our mask color, and we've just got the output set to alpha channel. You can adjust the way that the mask applies, so change like how big or small the object is, give it a bit of a tweak. This will be less of a problem as well if you render the whole scene out on this layer. The effects you won't have so much of weirdness with the way that it's applied. And then we create a track matte key and just set it to our mask layer. Then when we turn that on, it hides this mask layer and we just get the results. So you see that with this mask layer, we're getting the hair below the hat, but not the hair above the hat.